This is the Idiosyncratic Nightmare Podcast, the show where Michael Klein and myself make portraits of artists, thinkers, and creators, all while interviewing them about their deepest or most trivial thoughts about their artistic process and their experiences as a creative professional. This episode, we're talking to Eudald de Juana. He's a longtime friend of mine, a fantastic sculptor, and also a huge fan of Barcelona Football Club. Michael and I had a great time talking to him, and I hope that you're really going to enjoy this interview, so let's get started. Eudald de Juana, if somebody didn't know who you were, if by some crazy, insane coincidence, somebody had not heard of you, how would you describe yourself? How would you introduce yourself?
I'm Audal de Juana, and I would consider, first of all, I'm a sculptor, but now it's been changing a little bit. I have a daughter who is 3 years old, so I'm more than that, no, right now. And yes, I live in the 1 hour from Barcelona. I have the studio here. I live in my hometown where I used to where I grew up, and I have really nice studios in the countryside. And for me, like if you told me what is your happy place, your happy day, is to spend like 8 hours quiet in the studio, sculpting, touching clay. This is the thing that I like the most. And then having some time to be with my family or doing some sport, that would be the perfect day, no? If this would be in a row for 100 days, I can sign, no? And yes, I don't know. What else do you want to know?
Well, what else do I want to know? Everything, obviously, but in fact, maybe it brings up something interesting right off the start. I was talking with Daniela today, or I was texting with her, and you know Daniela Sone, and I said, "Oh, do you have any good questions for Audal?" And she said she knows, of course, that you had your first child like a few years back, and she asked, "Oh, like has that changed the way that you kind of look at yourself as an artist? Like what has that changed about how you kind of perceive your role in what you do?"
Yeah. It caused a really strong impact in the very beginning. The first year it was a little bit complex for me because for the last let's say 10-15 years my strength, it was based on being in the studio like as many hours as possible, like during the weekends as well, and 10 hours, 11. And this was what was making me feel good. I felt that I was doing the right thing. So in general, even sometimes I could feel like a little bit boring life, but I was doing what I was meant to do, no? So I feel like in an underline, like really well. And suddenly I have a daughter, which I love her, and it's like something. It's a love that I never experienced before, and I really enjoy it. But all these structures start to tremble a little bit because you need to put a lot of effort, no, into raising a baby, and it's been a journey. But now I feel I'm really in a very good place, really enjoying her and finding my space in the studio again. Of course, she's going to the school, so she's like, it gives us much more time. And in terms of my personal work, I think it has an impact. Like I really I would say that like before I would make works that they are a little bit more I would say powerful, a bit strong, sometimes a little bit dark. And now I really want to represent this feeling of tenderness that it awakes me, when I see my daughter, when I play with her, and that's, it makes me want to represent like children. And in every sculpture of a child I do, I try to represent this love, that I feel for her. And it's really interesting to see how it's shaping the artistic evolution.
And it's also, do I have it right, also that both of your parents were sculptors as well?
Yes, they do a very different type of sculpture. It's It's a kind of figurative sculpture, but like illustration a little bit, very simple figures. They always work in the ceramic world, like ceramic markets in Germany. So for me, it was really good to, of course, like to have the studio at home, see how my parents they make a living from what they do with their hands. So for me, this was always something very natural. No, I never had doubts that I could make a living of what I do. And I think the most important about this is that I always felt a really strong psychological support, no, from my family. They were always very proud of every new step I do in my career, and they were always very supportive in that way. And so I feel very lucky about this, no, because sometimes I have friends who are artists and they don't have a family who come from like this type of world, and I think it must be complicated to break these borders in even in your head, no, that you can live from what you do, no.
It actually kind of spoils my next question, which was, how did you like rebel as a teenager if your parents are both sculptors and then you're going to become a sculptor?
How I reveal about this?
Well, because every teenager, right? They grow up and then let's say their parents are like accountants and they want to rebel. So they go out and they start a punk band, you know? But you're like...
I was always a good boy. What do you want me to do, Papa? Okay, I'll be an artist. No, actually,
Okay.
it's funny because when I was a kid, I would draw a lot, and then in the years from 12 to 16, I would not draw, not do anything, and I was always focused in sport. I was always playing sports with my friends, playing volleyball in a team, playing football with other friends, and it was always about sport. And at that time, I was thinking that I wanted to do a career related with the sport. But then I started to draw a little bit when I was 16. At the school, I had some drawing lessons, and wow, I enjoyed a lot. And it was a while that I didn't draw, and I could see that every drawing I was doing, it was much better than the last one. And I felt I had so much potential to improve, no? And for example, in sport, I reached a limit. I was training really hard, and I could see some other colleagues. They with half of the effort, they would do better than me, and I wasn't able to improve. But in drawing, I was wow. There is a huge step from, and I really like it, that feeling, no. And I felt I was good at this, and I could be much better. So and then I had a really good supportive teacher that she said to me, you should go and study fine arts because this is your thing, no? And I think this was a very important person in that moment for me. To I'm very grateful that I had this person at that moment, no?
Yes, I want to take a quick side quest though, if you'll allow me. And everybody will hate me for this, but I have to do it anyway. What position did you play in football?
Well, when I played football, I didn't play in a team. My team sport was volleyball, and football. I was everywhere in the field, no, running. After the ball. Yes. So no, I was not like really good, no, but still. I really love sport. I think it's a great combination for me with art because what we do, we spend so many hours close in the studio by ourselves, which I like. No, it's very calm. But if I'm not in the studio sculpting, I really want to be outdoors, making like moving my body, running like with the ball and doing it outdoors, like in the landscape. No, I really like. For example, where we play beach volleyball with my friends is in the sea, and we have really nice views to the mountains. After the game, we go into the water, even if it's winter, and it's really like clears my mind. And and I had a friend saying, "Oh, you should come playing beach volley, but it's in a court in how do you say? It's in industrial area." And I
Mhm.
really don't like what I see, and I try to play there, but I feel really bad. No, it's like the image that I'm seeing while I'm playing. It have a strong impact on me as well.
Now, it's interesting you
Mhm.
mentioned that too, because it actually like aligns perfectly with the next thing I was going to talk about. That contrast between like nature and city. Now, before all this, of course, I was reading up a bit your artist statement and stuff, and trying to maybe extrapolate some questions that would be most relevant to you. But like a part of where you're from, like where you're living, like that's a big part of what you feel like inspires you.
Yes, because I have been realizing a lot. I didn't link this before, but I really enjoy looking at landscapes in general, all type of landscapes.
Hmm.
And I was thinking that, well, this is just something separate from my work because I do always, in general, human bodies, no, and the figure. And I thought that they were separate things. But with my girlfriend, she realized, she said, every time you are looking at the landscape, you're linking with your sculptures. And I realize, and it's true, that, for example, I'm looking at the mountains, and I look at the spaces between volumes and look at this curve, and then it's turning more rapidly. And I really enjoy the softness of this field, and then the noise of this forest there. And I'm always pointing out those things, no? And those rhythms that I see in nature, not in every landscape, but I always try to find it. I apply it on my sculpture and vice versa, no? And
Hmm.
yeah, they are affecting. What about you,
It kind
Stefan?
of
Do you see any landscape, or you are always in the studio?
For me, I've never been able to adjust to the whole like plein air adventurer mentality. I keep thinking to myself like when I turn 50, like I'm just gonna have to get my pochade box and like just go, because like I will no longer be able to like put off the eventual requirement of like being out there, because I feel like it's kind of the in some ways it's kind of like the perfect art form, you know? That like what do you want
Yeah,
to do in your life, like what do you want to do with your days and your experience? Why wouldn't you go out and like look at the most infinite beauty that you can find? Like I think that's really fascinating, whereas the studio environment for me is like a lot about looking inward, and so studio work for me
yeah.
often reflects that it is like this this turmoil and this like processing of human existence, whereas I feel going out into nature is like a way to alleviate all of that.
Yeah, actually, when I'm not drawing most lately, no, but I did draw a lot in the past, and I tried drawing some landscapes, or
Hmm.
yeah, or city landscapes, and I was never able to do it. Like, in the moment I start, I get bored, and then please, some person to come in, because I really need to draw the figure, no. And this was
Yeah.
the moment that I realized that I needed to be sculptor, because I was not, I for some reason I was not interested in representing the landscape, which I love to see, and I love to see
Yeah.
in paintings as well, but I don't enjoy making it, but I
What is
do
that?
love. Eh?
Because I
What?
can totally relate to what you're talking about. Like when the figure disappears, I
Hmm.
I'm lost. Like I don't have. I mean, I love a tree. Trees are great. I love a lake, whatever. But I never
Yeah,
have had that level of like fascination with it that I have with the human form.
yeah, yeah. So maybe you should be a sculptor as well. Uh,
Don't come on, don't tease me
uh,
about that, because it's true that like I feel like I should be, that actually I should be a sculptor.
something that for me it's interesting. Like, first I was just interested in representing human form, portrait, not much more than this. Then it came hair, and hair still was not there, but now it was there. And then I started to represent clothes, because it was attached to the body. And in the moment
Yeah,
I start to represent, like, I feel more interested, and now I feel I can represent clothes just by itself. So sometimes you just need like something to link to the next one, and then you get interested to it. No, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a matter of like, yeah, connecting the human body to that in a way that can kind of keep you engaged, or like bridge the gap in between the two. But by the way, so really quick, I also want to kind of mention, because you're like kind of tickling a fantasy of mine as well by being a sculptor. Explain to me a little bit, what is it Studio Geode or Geode Art Space? This is the studio, right?
Yes,
Tell me
exactly.
a little bit about it.
Yes. Yeah, this is my studio. It's 7 years ago I bought this farm that it was several buildings. There are 7 buildings, um, quite big. No, it's 140 square meters each one. There is one that's 400 square meter. Very big space with a lot of land in between buildings, and we have really like nice views to the mountains. And this came because back then I was teaching at the Florence Academy, in the place where I
Mm,
studied, and I was doing that for 3 years, I think, teaching. And I had
mm,
a very nice but small studio in the school. And and at some point, because I grew up with my parents having a lot of space in the studio, a lot of materials, for me it was clear that at some point in my career I really want a big studio where I have
mm,
materials and I can work outside if it's sunny, that it gives me options, no? And so
mm,
at this time I thought, okay, I think now is the time to yeah, to make my own space, and I need to buy it because I really need to make it my own way, because it's something very specific, no? An artist
mm.
studio.
Yeah.
And I found this place that at that time it was abandoned, and
Mm,
I have been restoring it for 7 years, and now it's a really really good space for work with all like
wow.
natural light. And it's incredible how, like, living in the countryside using natural light, how you become aware about the seasons. Like, for example, I know that in general every artist, like, they set up the studio light from the north because they want the steady light, but I try to make mine south facing, the opposite way,
Mm,
because
mm,
in an energetic way you are more efficient, no? Because in winter the sun goes lower, the sun goes in, the studio warms up by itself. In this is in winter, no? In summer the opposite, it goes up and it doesn't go in, so it doesn't get that hot. And this, for me as a sculptor, it gives me a challenge. It's not the perfect light, but it's good because every day I have different light. In the morning it comes a
mhm,
bit more, um, like, from down, so I can see other things on my sculptures. Maybe in the evening I don't have natural light, so I use the light from the ceiling, so I have
mm,
zenithal light. And I think as a sculptor, the most, like, variety of lights you have in the sculpture, the better, because you see it in thousand ways, no? Because then the sculpture,
mm,
after you finish it will take their own path, and it will be placed in a different house with different lights. So I need to
mhm.
work on it as with as many lights as possible. And yes, so light is a big factor for me. I just feel good being working with natural light.
This is
Mm,
something that I think, like,
really
of course,
nice.
I've been looking at your work for years and years and years. And it's one of the kind of characteristic differences I feel, in terms of the character of your artistic output, that you are a sculptor that is really, really concerned with kind of how light falls on the sculpture, like that allows
Hmm.
that to also define a part of the work. Which again, like for
Yeah.
anybody not initiated into sculpture, form obviously is king in that space. You're working all the time with the
Hmm.
surface and this actual physical real thing, whereas painters who are always making some impression of the light. But a very fascinating thing that you
Yes.
do, I think, is work a lot with impression and with light.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic because, like, I think this helped me a lot. The years I was at the Florence Academy by drawing, we spent a lot of time drawing, like 3 hours a day, the same model for 2 weeks, and we tried to get all the value arrangement. And this I didn't do it before, and I think before going there, I was more focused on the outlines of the sculpture, the contours that it would create. But then I realized that the inside part of the sculpture, how important it was, no? And this is really, it's, you see it because of the light. If there's like no light there, you don't see nothing, no? And I really love painting and drawing. I was always very inspired by like painters, and I try to capture, like, give the illusion of light. No, still the complicated thing with sculpture is that in terms of form, everything needs to be in the right place, because the viewer is gonna turn and will see all the views. So it needs to be everything in place, and then you can play with the illusion, but you have some room. You are not like a painter that you have all the tools to give a complete different illusion, no? But I try to give this sense of softness and unity in some areas to give some contrast with the strong sharpness that it reinforces the softness. At the end it's just a piece of clay, but when you see it from the distance, you get the sense that maybe there is a skin on top and there is a bone pushing out. I love to do these games. The Italian sculptor Medardo Rosso, who was really playing with the light. Actually, he made sculptures that they were made just to be seen in one view. So he was making the sculpture, make the photo shot, and that's it. And then you see the picture on the book, and it's incredible. It feels like atmospheric, like the eye goes through, and then the rest is blending in the air. And then you look at the sculpture in the museum, and you see that it's completely flat from another view. It's really weird feeling, no? So I'm trying to make sense with all the views, but still keep that illusion where I can.
Yeah, I found that kind of again quite fascinating, like, in a way. Also because it's you're one of the few people I've kind of seen do it. Now I have theories, but I more want to hear it from you. Like, how do you explain what happens inside the shadows, or I guess where the shadows would be in your work? Because I feel like that's the space where I see most acutely your attention to this visual effect.
It's interesting because I think you are thinking about the shadows, but if I'm putting the light from the other direction that is coming, there will not be shadow, there will be light, no? So I would think of more of areas of contrast and areas of no contrast. How would you say it? Softness. So it's not that I'm designing a shadow for this sculpture in that place, because maybe now with this light I'm putting that volume on top and it creates this shadow. But maybe in the afternoon the light will come from the side and I will not have this shadow anymore. So it's much harder to control than painting, no? In that sense. But the thing I can do is, like, okay, here I want to put focus, so maybe I put more stronger texture, more difference of volumes, sharper lines, and then here I make a bit more flat surface with less depth, less change of depth, and this creates the tension between them, no? But if the light comes from there, the shadow will be in one place. If comes from there, it will be in another place. So
Mm.
yeah, that's why I was saying I really need to sculpt with many lights as possible, no? And I
Yeah.
think a few years ago I would be sculpting always with the same light, and then I will take the picture, and it will be amazing photo, and I really like it. But then again, like the sculpture in other light effect is not the same. And now I'm a little bit, I don't take this perfect shot with the same light because I have been sculpting with different lights, but the sculpture is more complete for future, no, for different ways of
Mm.
seeing it.
As a technical nerd myself, I want to naturally like unpack and investigate all the technical features, but I think that would maybe mischaracterize the way that like I see that your work is. Do you think of it as kind of do you think of your creative process as kind of emotionally driven or kind of rationally driven, or is that not a dichotomy that you think about?
Interesting. I think I'm quite rational. Like I try to analyze everything. Like because the other day we had a conversation with my girlfriend, no, and she was saying, well, we it was something about this, no, and I was explaining,
Mm.
no, I think yeah, I analyze everything because I'm like you know you are a scientist of what you're doing, and you're trying to understand everything that's
Mm.
happening in the paper, why it creates this effect on you, and you try to understand everything. And so what happened is that at the end, yeah, you become quite rational about your work because everything you put there, you are doubting it,
Mm.
asking if it works, it doesn't work, why, and if it doesn't work, you will not stop uh, trying to find out why it's not working. So
Mm.
it can feel quite rational and methodologic way.
Mm.
Um, but at the same time, I can tell you that I start to work in a different way right now. Well, it's been a journey, but for a period of time, I thought I needed to have a more clear idea of the sculpture I wanted to do, and I was quite rigid about it. No, like until the end, it needed to look like the sculpture I imagined in my head, and now I'm doing
Mm.
in a way that I'm really enjoying because I let myself, okay, let's start. Maybe it doesn't feel it's like the best idea of the world, but just start with an image, and I keep it really open. That's why sometimes my sculptures they end up having metal and irons in places that they shouldn't have, because I start thinking that the sculpture will be flying here, and after 2 weeks for some reason I think, oh no, I'm going to put this volume here, and the sculpture it's gonna be about this, and I really I think I connect with this concept, and then I change things, or I cut this arm and I put another figure here, no, and
Yeah.
those things they come really not planned, no, like just
Mm.
by being there and looking at the sculpture, and when those moments happen, that there is
Mm.
a radical change, I really like it because I feel surprised myself, and it gives me it's sometimes it's scary because sometimes it's not working, you don't know why, but if I
Mm.
keep like being there, and there is this turning point, and well, I feel alive, no, it's like wow, new thing, it's stimulating me. So I want to do more this way, to stay
Yeah.
open, flexible. I think it also it comes with my personality. I consider myself someone quite positive. So if there is something apparently bad happening, I try to look at the positive side, and I think it reflects on my sculptures because there are accidents on the process, and sometimes these accidents I see, I think, oh, those work, or let's go this way, and I try to stay open.
How do you measure for yourself whether that sort of side quest or that divergence from your plan is like fruitful or not, or is it like a non-judgmental experience, like something occurs to you, you go, I have to investigate just because I have to?
Yes, um, because sometimes you feel okay, the work is okay, no, and but
Yeah,
okay is not enough. But then you don't know what to do to make it better. Okay, let's continue
yeah,
working. I'll focus on the hand and I need to put more attention. Don't worry. And I try not to be hitting the wall like, oh, it doesn't work. Okay, just let's flow, focus on something else. And because sculpture takes a lot of time, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 1 month, um,
mm,
I'm confident that there will be a moment that I will see something, or I will say, get rid of this. No, for example, I made this sculpture that's called Night Sky. It's a boy that's looking up at the stars.
yeah,
This is how I imagine. And if you look at the side of the sculpture, this sculpture is the Miam museum that you were part of the exhibition. You saw it, I guess, in
mm,
Barcelona.
mm-hmm,
And if you look at the side of the sculpture, there is the hand of the boy that at the beginning it was attached to the box where he's sitting at, and that it made this kind of curve with the arm, with the hand, that
mm-hmm,
it, at the beginning I like it, but at some point I realized I felt it was too like curvy in a very homogeneous way. No, the curve, it was
yeah,
turning almost in the same way, so it needed some like strong like change. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to cut the hand, and as I'm cutting, I put it off and I start to move it around to see what's the position of the arm that's better. In the moment I
mm,
cut, just before cutting the whole thing, the hand just goes out a bit, and I say to myself, "Oh, wait, don't cut the whole thing, because I think now something interesting is happening." And I
mm-hmm,
look around sculpture, every view, and I'm like, wow, I think it's working now. I just cut the hand, it's almost all out, but just attached from the tip of the fingers, and suddenly this problem that I saw with the curve is not happening, and it creates some mystery, the fact that it's out part of it but not all. And it feels unexpected, and it feels unexpected for me, so I guess unexpected for the viewer. And I say,
yeah,
okay, great, I love it. This I didn't, it was not in my plan, but I keep it. And this, I think, it leads to new things, no.
yeah,
Maybe in future sculpture I will do it in purpose. Maybe I'm sure there will be another like mistake or part of the process, and this is what keeps me positive, no. It keeps me positive in thinking that I will have a style that it evolves, and like it evolves in a, I mean, in in the way that life evolves, no, our life evolves. Like, it doesn't mean that you need to change radically anything, but changes are good, no. And
mm, mm,
so yeah, this, I like to stay open, because in the past I look at a lot of artists, and I spend a lot of time seeing other artists, other painting, sculpture, and right now I find everything in my studio. No, I think I have a really big library of those things that I have been seeing in the past, and they come through. I don't need to look at them anymore, I feel.
Yeah, so it sounds like you don't do like a little small maquette, or like your concept is kind of, it's in the big process. It doesn't, the vision doesn't start really
Yeah.
small and get big.
Ye- Yeah, it's a good question, Michael. It depends. Like, if, for example, I have a commission and it's gonna be like a big sculpture,
Sure.
I would like make a maquette for the concept to present to the client. And then if the client say, okay, we like it, let's go for it, then yes, the maquette is like a bigger sculpture. Try to be like the maquette, no? Also, the thing with sculpture that sometimes is a little bit limiting is that if you make a big sculpture or challenging in the forms because the arms are going out or the figure is jumping, let's say, you need a really strong armature to hold the clay. Sometimes there is 100 kilos of clay. So for this reason, you need to make the maquette to plan this. But if I'm doing a sculpture that is not so big, and I feel like with an armature, I can play, keep it loose, like not compromise a lot. Then I really like this idea of starting with a general idea, but let's see what will happen, no? With the process. Is the way I enjoy the most, actually. And I want to investigate it more, no? I'm really in that process right now. Like, actually, one of the latest sculpture I did, this is a secret, it's just between the three of us, it's a sculpture that's called Nest, and it's this it's like a lady with the head is it's a wing, no? It comes a wing out of the head, and it's all wrapped with cloth. And actually, this sculpture I started, it there was no this cloth. It was a lady that was holding herself. And at some point I thought that it changed the topic, no? It became, I wanted to do something more how do you say, insightful, no? That's looking into herself, but also from this looking at into herself, it comes out the wing, it comes the sense of freedom, no? That you find in yourself. And this idea, it was not like my first idea, no? But just by making those forms, one form leads me to think of another form, and it leads to a new idea, and it's fun.
I remember when you came to the States, right? This was maybe, I don't know, when did you fly over and see me in Jersey City?
It was 2019, on the fall of 2019. Yeah.
And then we were going to you were going to make a sculpture while you're there, and I, like an absolute jerk, suggested, oh, why don't you use plastiline? And you refused completely to do that, and so I had to go find really good clay in Jersey City. Now, for me, I'm a non-sculptor, so like I guess I can see that there's a difference, but I don't intimately know like what that difference is. But maybe you do.
I think I refuse because I just want to make your life a little bit harder. Because no, look, the difference I find is that with plastiline, normally it's a little bit harder, and of course you can make it softer if you warm it up, but it makes the process a little bit slower. While in clay, you buy a big block of clay that the clay is still very wet, and you make cuts like this, climb big pieces. And I really enjoy when I start a sculpture, go as fast as possible. This is the moment that I feel more excited. And because I want to see the big volumes as soon as possible. I don't want to be like warming up the plastiline and cutting in small pieces, and I want to have everything there, no? And I want to be slow when everything is there, and I take my time. And that's why I enjoy more working with clay. But also, for example, if I'm making a big sculpture and I have to sculpt the hands, sometimes I would sculpt with plastiline, because the fingers with clay, they would get dry very quick, and they would, and while in plastiline, you can work for days. So Or if I'm doing a really like a small head, maybe I would use plastilin. So it's not one or the other. But for me, it works well for small things. The plastilin.
But then for you, then like the clay, like that, it's essential that it's this water-based clay is kind of, or it's a quality. It's not a thing that you need to have or not. Like it doesn't determine whether you can work or not.
No, of course I can still make work with plastilin. In my house, I have a lot of small pieces of plastilin that maybe I'm sick at home or I need to be at home for some reason, and then I start like with a small thing, no, because the plastilin doesn't get as dirty with the clay as well. Um, so yeah, I tolerate plastilin as well.
On the subject of materials, I'm obviously a huge fan of sculpture. I have been since I was a student. I would always go when I was at the academy over to the sculpture studio, not for any reason, but like to draw sculptures, to be around like wet clay in human form. So gorgeous. Do you find, like, what is the connection you find between that and when you eventually need to go into bronze? Because I feel like there is a translation there that I have seen have sometimes very unfortunate consequences. Sometimes people do really beautiful things with it, but what is your position about that relationship?
I think like the sculpture when it's in clay, it's at its best. No, it's the way that the clay takes the light. It's shiny but not too much. It really
Beautiful.
shows the form at its best. It's really really nice. But I try to forget about this. No, like I finish the clay and I need to give a new different life to the final sculpture. I don't for a period of time I was trying to see if I make a patina that looks like the clay, but it doesn't work, no, because it will be always behind. So I think it's better to go in a completely different way. So I'm painting my sculptures sometimes with like with strong colors that they are like very alive and really like different from clay, no, still when you get close you see the texture on the surface that really feels like clay, but the colors are not clay. And in bronze the same thing, no, like I have tried very different type of patinas. One that it works really well, it works really well, especially when there are broken parts that sometimes when the bronze melts, it doesn't go through every place and then it creates holes. And so what I did, I painted gold inside and black outside, and
Right.
it creates like a different way of seeing the sculpture, because while you are moving around you see the hole and you can see the part inside, you can see the back of the sculpture, you can see how the light reflects in the gold, and also in a conceptual way it's really strong, no, because the inside part is the golden part that is a little bit high, and so this is very different than clay. So but it's really, yeah, it's strong. And yeah, it's tough, this one, because I have like for example I have here one sculpture that is made of clay. This one was the original piece. Normally when I sculpt, we make the mold, silicone mold, and from there we make the resin or the bronze. And normally I destroy the clay, but sometimes I keep some parts, and I put it on the kiln. And I have a good friend who is an amazing ceramicist who made this glaze. It's called celadon, and this is a solid sculpture. It's like the one that I sculpted, and I really love this kind of finish, no, this glaze. And when I touch it I feel it's full. But it's really difficult to do that on a full sculpture in a technical level, because the clay, like normally when I sculpt, I need to make an armature inside that holds the clay, that doesn't that the yeah that it holds. But then what happens is that when the clay dries, the armature is inside, and the clay shrinks, and then what happens? It creates cracks inside, and it breaks.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you can keep some parts of the sculptures, but like imagine a full figure, it would be impossible. All the arms would break, the fingers, and I find it technically very difficult. And I know some people who do it. For example, Cristina Cordova, who is a sculptor. She's from Puerto Rico. She's an amazing sculptor. She sculpts just in clay, I think, and she fires it, and I really love it. But the technical, like she builds it empty, try to like hold it in some parts from the outside. It have a really different approach, to build things.
Mm.
And so yeah, I choose another way.
There are moments in your sculptures that look destructive.
Hmm.
I love this also because there's a contrast in between this
Yeah.
beautiful and soft, refined area, and then there is this, like this, I don't know, like
Rawness.
destroyed, rended thing.
Yeah.
Where do those contrasts come from? What is like the impulse in making that destruction, and how do you work with it? How do you decide how much destruction is the right amount? Or maybe there's not really a way that you can say the amount, but maybe you understand what I mean.
Yes, it's a good point. When I do my work, I really like to push contrast in every way, like sharpness and softness, contrast and quietness, like every possible way, and like, for example, I really like some soft areas where, because I think as a viewer, like when you're looking at the sculpture, it's a journey. It's like, it's not just one image. So sometimes on internet we see just one image, but actually we see, when you are like in front of a sculpture, you are going around, and you have a different journey. And I really love some moments of like calm, and you see all this softness that makes you feel quiet and relaxed, and then in contrast you have this like sharpness, something broken, that one is reinforcing the other, and it makes you live different moments through the sculpture. And for some reason, since I was a kid, I remember like my parents, they when they make the sculpture, they make plaster mold, and they fill it in with clay, and when they release it from the mold, the sculpture, it comes with lines that they look like cracks. And these things, my parents, they would always remove it, always, like the maximum work that they would have from each sculpture was removing these lines. It would take them a lot of time, and I was always looking at them, and but those are super beautiful, I was thinking, those lines,
Yeah.
but for some reason didn't work in their sculptures. And then when I start like making my own sculptures, I really enjoy looking at the cracks and creating them. But I realized that it worked in my sculptures, because my sculptures, they were not giving, they were not such a pleasant and happy feeling. They had a bit more not sadness, but some tension, some like melancholy, like feelings that they are a little bit on the sad side, let's say. And I could realize that the cracks were working really well on this type of a sculpture, not in the one that my parents were doing, not that they were always like giving a happy feeling. So it's something that I have been representing since then in many different ways. Sometimes making lines and sharp incisions with the tools, sometimes just removing the clay while destroying, and also I think it's like a really nice metaphor, no, with life, because if like you think about the subject, no, we are all made of like cracks, moments that destroy you, that really have a really strong impact, that creates a scar on you, and then some moments of calm, and I think this is being represented on the surface, so it really supports the idea behind the sculpture at the same time.
You are how long into your, I don't know how we say your career, but like how many years since you have just graduated and been professional?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm 36 right now, and I started studying. I went to study fine arts in Barcelona in the university when I was 19,
Mm.
and then I there's no a clear line. No, even before the university, I already sculpted in the studio of my parents. I already drew before, so of course there is not a beginning. But
Mm.
I think when I studied fine arts, like what I realized at some point, because I had a lot of different type of subjects, and at some point I said to myself, look, I love representational art. I want to learn to draw well, to sculpt well. I'll make it my own way. So what I did is I went to the class. I see what the teacher is asking, and I'll try to make how to say, a project that's related to that, helps me to draw, to sculpt. It helps me to improve, and I went to the studio on my own. I met other artists, students who were there, and we learned figuring it out for ourselves. And but I would say that every project, it was like learning, but also trying to make an interesting project. It was not just an assignment for me. It was like, okay, it's the final project of this subject, and I want to make an interesting sculpture or installation. So here there was already some. I was trying to find my way, no, and then when I finished the university, I realized that I really needed to learn much more the skills I really wanted. So I was also very lucky to find a person who told me, okay, Florence Academy, this is the place if you want to learn how to draw well. And I look at it, and I was like, wow, this is a dream for me. I thought that was not possible to learn this way anymore, no? And so I managed to go there after 1 year and a half, something like this, and then I was really focused, going deep into the studies. So everything was about exercise. So I would say for this year I was making exercises from the school, but the year before, it was the year between the university and the Florence Academy. I was 22, 23. I had my first exhibition already, so I had the whole year preparing new works, try to develop my own style for this exhibition. So I could consider that, yeah, this was maybe the beginning, 23. And then I had this like parenthesis where I go back to the basics with the Florence Academy. And then after 1 year, while I was studying, I was already doing some other projects aside. And then like gradually after 2 3 years, I was already fully in making my own projects, no? And then gradually, like, there are some commissions coming, some works that I sell, and it grows gradually, and I think when I was 27, I had already 28 some like important commissions, like big sculpture in bronze, and some like portraits. And so yeah, it was nice because it grew gradually,
Did you feel like there was quite a, I mean, I guess maybe there's a little bit of an answer to this already, but like did you have a change in mentality in between those two roles? Like you were saying that when you did these projects, at these academic projects, that you were still searching for something like for yourself. So like, I guess for you, the difference was, there was never a difference really in between like sculpting for one purpose or another.
Yes, that's a good point. I always, even if I was making exercises from the school, I was trying to like thinking what I can do to turn this out in something interesting that I can call it like my own work, no?
Yeah.
So even like now I look back, maybe it was a little bit forced to fit this in while I was studying. Well, I mean, seeing the works, but it really helped me because it gave me like 100% motivation in every project that I did. No,
Yeah.
like when I started like sculpting a pepper or the nose of David or the eye, and I remember when I was doing them, I was like, wow, so motivated and really enjoying the project, and and now I look back and like, well, it was just like a copy of a little plaster cast, no? But I was really into it, and so really enjoy my journey of learning, no?
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always say like sometimes like people who want to study art, they ask me like they say what is the advice that I can give, and I always say, okay, it's not advice because everyone is different. But for me, what I'm very grateful, and it works really for me, is that um, for me, my aim was always get better. Like every project that I do, I give 100%, and because I want to learn, and I don't care if I have success in 2 years, in 4, in 10. I just want to be a master in my craft, in my work, and I have really long term vision. And I really, for me, it's really important that I enjoy every project that I do. For me, like learning needs to be through enjoyment. Sometimes I see people that go through learning through a lot of pain, and I think we need to make like your life easier. Like it doesn't matter for me if you start your first project making a full figure that it's life size, or you start sculpting a nose or just a square. For me, it's as long as you are sculpting, you will learn. So it doesn't matter so much what is the assignment that you're doing, but just do it with your best, with passion, like trying to enjoy. And this worked really well for me because like even now, for example, like few years ago, I said to myself, I really need to learn how to sculpt clothes. I didn't do it while I was studying, and it's something that I think it's important to learn. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to make a sculpture. It's gonna be a project. It will be my personal work, and I will have a concept, and I want to exhibit this sculpture, and I will make it with cloth because I will this way will help me to learn cloth, how to make
Hmm.
drapery, no?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's a win-win situation. Like you make a new work that I'm proud of it, that I can show, and also I feel I learned a lot. So I try to take it that way in everything, no? Now I'm doing
Yeah.
some reliefs, putting a lot of hands. And first I put it the hands because it's the concept I want, that there are hands. But then I'm like, okay, but it's great because I sculpt so many hands. I will be very good at sculpting hands, and it gives
Yeah.
me extra motivation. No, yeah,
Yeah. 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 Definitely. I love that idea that where like, I think that there is a way to kind of hide inside of academics sometimes, where it's like you kind of like you, oh, it's just a project, so it doesn't. You're trying to divorce yourself from the outcome of it, and like, yeah, I'd rather be like more invested, if anything.
yeah. I remember once I was in the Florence Academy, my second year, and it was my second term, and I was leaving. I was going to leave. At the end, I didn't leave. I managed economically to stay longer, and but I was going to leave, and we do this long pose, we call it, no, that's 5 weeks, drawing 3 hours the same model, no, and
Yeah.
it's just like drawing the model with the black background, so it doesn't feel like really like your own project, no. But I remember
Yeah.
at that time I was like so engaged that we need, there are like, let's say, 20 students, and you are all around the model, and we pick by the letter of our surname. So I was the last to pick that time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I have seen 3 spots that they are amazing. Let's wait what the people is picking. First one, it choose the first one. Okay, well, I still have two. Then all the people, and they start picking. They pick up all the 3 amazing spots that I saw, and I, fuck, man.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, they leave me the worst spot. I was on the profile, and it was completely against the light. I have all the figure in like completely black with a shrimp light, and I
Yeah.
was so angry. Like this day, I'm like, wow, I wanted to do the best drawing ever in history, and I
Yeah.
saw these 3 amazing spots. People is speaking, and they will stop drawing and I went back home, and I said to my partners, okay, I never go out, but today I'm getting drunk, and I start to drink the the grappa like crazy, and my friend, I remember
Started
calling, and
drinking
hey,
grappa. Oh man.
friend, you should come. Audal is getting drunk tonight. This is gonna be crazy. And I was
Yeah.
super drunk just because I was very angry that I couldn't pick the position. And
Yeah.
and now I look back at it, and I'm like, wow, it was just an assignment, but I took it really seriously.
Yeah. I find that so much. Like, I mean, I can relate so well to that experience where it's like, for some reason, when you're a student, like everything feels like it's like do or die. Like everything will
Yeah, yeah.
make you or break you. But like in retrospect, in in
Mhm.
retrospect, like there's these moments where, like, all right, so the idea that you're painting this sliver of light, right? It wasn't until I actually had to leave the academy really that I started to like look at lighting like that as something exciting, like it's actually, it's a totally different dynamic, and you get to show something like totally different. As a student, you can't see that. I don't know what the dynamic is, but it's like impossible to see.
So you mentioned your current studio situation. How, how do prospective students, reach out to you if they're interested? Do you take on like a certain amount a year, or is it completely private, or?
I teach workshops in my studio,
Hmm.
and we do 4 a year, two in
Okay.
springtime and two in the fall. They are 5-day workshops, and I promote it on Instagram. I
Yeah,
post it
yeah,
on my Instagram, and there is really a lot of interest. No, we are very like blown away about all the
sure.
interest that creates, no, and they get full quite quick,
Wow.
and we are always trying to improve things. We realize that the workshops, like what we give during the class, it's always, of course, is the most important, but also the experience, the whole experience is it's almost equally important, no, like,
Yeah,
so for example, we all have lines together in the same place, then after class, people who wants to stay, maybe we stay playing games, so we get to know each other, like, while having fun. I think I really like to meet new people, and I think it's good for me because I since I spend a lot of time alone in my studio, when the people comes, it's people that have been traveled from like very far away. From the US we have a lot of people, from South America, India, and I feel very I don't know, I feel this admiration, no, if these people
mm,
is traveling from so far and making this
sure.
effort. It's like, okay, you are already my friend, and
Mm,
I'm, yeah, very like, yeah, hoping spend time together and have a laugh, and people really appreciate, I think, being in my studio where we have all the sculptures, where there is Janse, who is my assistant, who makes the molds and is amazing, sculptor as well. No, like what he does is really good, and he have his own studio there. Like people can see the process of making the molds and seeing all the stages of the work. And
That's great.
yeah.
Do you have any full-time students? Do you have any like ongoing? No.
Yeah, it's just for the workshops. For me, was something very important. No, I have been asked if I'm doing this, but I like my daily life. I really need my time in my studio, and even sometimes it's hard to find it because sometimes I don't know why, but there's so many things, little things, or administration, or you have to go here and there. And as you know, no, as a freelance, it's difficult to manage your time because you are always able to go out of the studio. No, nobody is putting a wall, but then you
This is the
need,
truth.
yeah, you need to be hard on this. So that's why I like the workshops, because I know that this week my energy is all my energy is for the students, and I try to be as generous as possible with this. But then the workshop is over. I'm back in my studio. I try to be very selfish with my energy. My energy is for my sculptures.
Nice.
Yeah. This year I'm going to teach a workshop at the Lime Academy at the end of March.
Nice.
In a month and a half. It will be the first time in a while that I'm teaching in another place that's not in my studio. I have been in touch with Chad for a while, who is the director of the sculpting program, and last year they invited me to a sculptor retreat that they invited different sculptors, mainly from the US, and I visit the school. I love the school, and the teachers who are there are amazing artists and great people, no? Who is super motivated. I think the place, I fell in love with the place. So I said to Chad, okay, let's make the workshop next year, and I'm also very excited for that.
Now, while I can admit and understand that, sculpting is tiring and it's hard work and, it's exhausting and everything, why are sculptors the only ones who need a retreat? I feel like as a painter, I feel like I'm equally exhausted and equally deserving of a retreat, but there are no painters' retreats. There's only sculptors' retreats.
Maybe the name it should be different, because it's not a retreat. Like, we are working there, so like, okay, bye, I'm going for holidays for a few days to the New York. Oh, what will you do? Well, we will be sculpting. Like, it doesn't feel like really like a retreat in that sense. But I think it's really nice because you are sculpting with other sculptors, and you are able to share, to meet new, like, different people, no? Who we enjoy the same thing, no? So yeah, you should organize a painting retreat. I think you would enjoy, but maybe not organize. Someone else organize it, and you go as a.
That's the next point.
Yes. Yeah. Be careful with that.
Hey, what's going on with you right now? Like what's the new thing? Like, you have a big project on, or a big commission on, or you're just working away?
Right now, well, I have in 10th of October, I have a solo exhibition in Lisbon in a gallery called Espacio Exhibicionista. I did already an exhibition there almost 2 years ago that went really well, and we're doing it again. So I'm preparing new pieces for the show, and also I start to collaborate with a French gallery called Galerie Vartu, who is a really strong gallery. They have 12 galleries around France. They are also in New York and Miami and Paris, and I'm also doing pieces because to also for them. And and what else? Yeah, so next week I'm going to London, like because two years ago I did some work for Gladiator 2, the movie. It was the first
Hmm.
time I did some work for a movie, and it was a really good experience because it was very different from what I do. Okay, so make the sculpture of the Emperor, and it was really relaxing in that sense. No, I don't need to think about anything else, and I really enjoyed. And now there is another movie coming up, and they asked me if I want to join for a few weeks, and uh, I'm very busy because of the sculptures that I'm doing and the workshop in New York. But I managed to fit in a couple of weeks to go there, and it's a different experience that I really enjoy. Also, it's a very good friend of mine who who works there, so it's the opportunity to see each other and work together. So I will do this as well. So it's good to have variety. Fine.
What is this thing, create together, that you were talking about?
Don't
Or don't
sculpt
create
alone.
alone. Don't sculpt alone. That's what
Don't
it was.
create. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so this is something that it's been in my head for 3 years, something like this, because we were doing the workshops and they were going very well. No, we had a lot of requests, and I thought we I want to do more experiences like this, but maybe no more than 4 workshops a year, but do something that people comes and I can sculpt at the same time. But I'm not teaching, I'm making my own work, and everyone who's coming, they will have their clay. We will have different, maybe model, maybe some objects, some pictures, and every person will make their own project. I will be making my own, and this way it's like a way that people who is interested to see the process, because if I'm teaching a workshop, of course I'm like I do some demos, but they don't see the full process, no, of making a sculpture. So I think it can be a good opportunity for people to see the process while they are doing their own project. And also when we were talking, um, so I thought, well, maybe we could do it with you, Stephen, to do this kind of experience where you are painting, making your own project. Maybe like in the morning or after lunch, we can explain to the people, look, now I'm doing this because I'm looking for that, and have like a little talk, 30 minutes explaining the process, but then doing
Mm.
your own thing, and people just enjoy doing sculpting or painting, and also having this privilege that would be to see you making the painting, no. um,
Yeah.
this I think it's a different thing. I never seen this before, no. But I think it could create a big interest. What do you think?
I think so too. Like I love the idea really of like opening the doors on like actually what happens like when you're being creative. It's like, you I'm sure, but I know for myself, like I've been teaching workshops for, I don't know, 20 years now, in various places in the world. And like while it's always kind of gratifying and interesting, like rarely do you actually get into this stuff. Like my studio work is in a lot of ways quite different from like my workshop demos. These days I'm blending a lot more of that, but even so, like the idea of like doing something that's really orchestrated of a vision, I don't think the doors very often get opened on that, and the idea that that could happen through this would be, for me, like really really stimulating.
Okay, great. So for everyone, our idea is to do this in my studio, and it's gonna call "Don't Create Alone" or "Don't Sculpt Alone" or "Be with Stephen Bauman," something like this.
It's going to be called "Be with Stephen Bauman."
Yes. Uh,
You're going to sell a single ticket to that. Not a single
this will
one is
take
going to be.
we need to be efficient with this Yeah, we need to read down a little bit more, but hopefully we can
Yeah.
do this together, and it will be a great chance that we spend some time together also.
Yeah,
It's
I'm always
been
in for
since
that. Absolutely always.
2017, I think.
I have one quick question for Eudald. Is your the area that you grew up in, is your dialect of Spanish slightly different?
My language is Catalan. It's not a dialect.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so here where I live in Catalonia, the main language is Catalan, but people speak Catalan and Spanish both. And if you go into the city in Barcelona, you will hear more Spanish, I think. But as you go to the countryside, it will be more Catalan.
Okay.
And Catalan is a Latin language in the same way as Italian or Spanish or French. So for us, the people who speak Catalan, we can read French, for example, and I would read French and understand 70%.
Mhm.
But if I listen, it's harder for me because the pronunciation is really different, and the sound it's quite a lot like Spanish, but sometimes like Italian,
Yeah.
sometimes Portuguese. Of course, it's been in touch with Spanish for so many years that a lot of words are like this similar or almost the
Sure.
same, but it's considered
Sure.
another language.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Hmm. And you, Michael, where do you live?
I'm in Massachusetts. Yeah, we're in
Massachusetts.
Western Massachusetts currently.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's cold there, no? Now?
it is. Yeah. We're about like
Mm.
an hour and a half north of Lime Academy, maybe a little bit longer.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Ah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you visit the school?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Everything they've done is just insanely awesome. I mean, they're doing like
Mm.
the dream academy for contemporary
Yeah,
representational art.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like the idea that they are taking like different teachers who are all really good, but with different
Right.
backgrounds,
Yeah.
and I feel like there is really strong like skills, no, which what's the important, but also that kind of openness, like to find your way after, no, that this is a
Mhm.
difficult thing with academy sometimes, that um like it becomes everyone do the same, no,
Super dogmatic.
and
Yeah. No, you're right.
so
That's a huge problem
I
in
really like
contemporary. I was going to ask about, so
no that,
you growing up in a household with two parents that were artists. So most artists are thrown into the art world like not knowing what the business was like. Did you have kind of an idea of what it was like then, obviously being an artist? So was that less of a hurdle for you?
in that sense, the how do you say, the the circle where my parents, they in a professional level,
Hmm.
like it's really different from my path. So for example, they make sculptures in ceramics and they go to Germany to ceramic markets to sell it, and they sell it in the street.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people go there, but they are like not expensive pieces, so
Okay.
very
Interesting. All right.
affordable, more like in the artisan world, no?
Sure.
So my path from the very beginning, I had a clear vision. Like I don't want to go this path. I
Sure.
want to make things that are considered artworks, and they are in art galleries. And
Yeah.
so I needed. I had to create my own path from the beginning. It's not that I had the context from my parents or
Okay.
this. I didn't have, no. But the most I had the most important, which is the support, no, they understand what I'm doing, and so this helped me a lot. Hmm. Yeah, sometimes I explain that the first time I sell sculptures, actually I was maybe 9 years old. I went with my parents to a ceramic market in Austria, and they were in the street with the benches with the sculptures, and I put a little box in the street with a blanket. I put the small animals, and I sold all everything I had in the table, and I made 120 euros. And I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy! What could I do with so much money?" And and I went straight to the game shop for the children, and I bought Lego and all this, and my money disappeared like so quick, and I went back with a lot of Lego and little cars and everything. But I thought,
Oh my
wow,
God.
I'm on the top of the wave. Yeah.
And you're hooked. You're hooked from that point on then, you know?
Yes.
Audal, I mean, thank you so much for like hanging out with us and letting us paint these portraits of you and talking, man. Really appreciate it. That's all the show we have this time around. I want to thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Idiosyncratic Nightmare Podcast. If you like the content that you're finding, please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hey, if you're feeling like you really love the show, why don't you share it with a friend? Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.